song
Yeah.
for one guitar.
Yeah, and one vocalist.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Try to cover some of the heat wave parts.
Yeah, like, no, I figured it'd be better to just kind of do different things than try to
Yeah.
can't quite get there. Or even like, change it up to like heat wave.
No, we did it.
Heat wave.
So we've been playing out on the road so much lately.
We have 11 dates in 11 days.
Yeah.
Or 11 shows in 11 days.
Yeah, a lot of being out there from Colorado
Denver,
to Nebraska,
Lincoln,
Michigan, Indiana, Illinois,
Royal Oak, and
Michigan,
Benton Harbor in Michigan, and Indiana, a couple shows, Joliet, Illinois.
And fun fact for all of you guys, when we were playing the festival in Royal Oak, we actually shared space with Miss Martha.
Yep, Martha Reeves was at the music store when we were at the music store.
Yes, when we were playing the festival Arts, Beats, and East, and she was in there purchasing a shaker to shake at a table with some children. It was quite wholesome.
It was very sweet. And, it was funny because I didn't recognize her. And afterwards, the music store owner was like, and I was kind of listening to the conversation. It was cool, and they were very kind with her. And
gentle.
Then, yes, it was nice. And then afterwards, they were like, do you know who that was? And I was like, well, she looked familiar. And they're like, oh, that was Martha Reeves. And I was like, oh, man, I wish I would have said hello. Because, like, when I was a kid, one of my first songs that I really liked a lot was Nowhere to Run To by Martha Reeves and the Vandellas.
Which I listened to after you said that because I was unfamiliar with it.
Nowhere to run to, baby.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. It was on the soundtrack for Good Morning Vietnam. And that was the first R-rated movie that I snuck into.
Ah, sneaky sneaker.
Well, I just actually got let in, so I don't know if that's really sneaking. I bought a ticket and went in. But I don't think I was 18. But I think they were kind of lax at the time. It must have been close.
It was the 80s.
I must have been close. I don't know. I'm not sure when that came out. So, but I really liked the song. It was like a lot of fun. Like the whole album, I bought the soundtrack. And like Robin Williams a lot. Robin Williams was really cool when I was a kid. He was like he had a lot of really good movies that really influenced me as a young person. That's that one. A lot of it was about being yourself, which was weird because I was at an awkward stage, and I remember Robin Williams had that movie where he played Adrian Cronauer based on a not a true story, I don't think, but like a true DJ, and probably some parts of it were real, some parts were made up, of course.
I know some of the darker parts came from a dark reality, so.
Yeah, and then but a lot about it being yourself, and then
isn't that such a hard lesson for humanity as a whole?
Is.
Just being first you have to find yourself. You have to like unearth who your self really is. And then put effort into being that, regardless of how the rest of the other selves in the space receive it.
Yeah, and I think like another movie at his time was The Dead Poets Society. I don't know if you saw that, but that was very much about like not fitting in, or not blending into the crowd.
Yeah.
And be purposefully who you are. And it's weird because I guess even, I think as humans, we do definitely pick our battles, and we like, from an early age, like I was happy to not like blend in as a guitar player and just play in a top 40 band, which I did play as a top 40 band, but even from the beginning I knew that I was trying to play like a longer game, so I would never learn the songs like exactly like the record, and I'd always push myself to improvise. And at first, of course, I wasn't very good at it, but like after years of practicing, I'm a little bit better at it.
Well, I have a question for you. Does it strike you as odd that in art is one of the few places in the human experience that to be unique is the goal, whereas in all of the other realms of life, to be like the others is the goal? Yeah,
that is kind of interesting,
And I wonder if that lends itself to artistic facilities being really hard to attain.
I wonder if that's why artists constantly feel like a clash between worlds, because you know, you have the day job or the 9 to 5 and all the things. This is society, like buying the house and
the things that pay the mortgage.
Things that pay the mortgage and all that type of stuff. And you struggle with that constantly because you don't want to just do the same as everybody else because you're so used to kind of being your own person artistically. So
artistically,
there's constant conflict. And I think that most people want to be themselves and don't know how or are afraid to be themselves. And it's tough because, you know, you have this push-pull of, like, I want to be myself, right? But then you're trying to live within the constraints of a society that definitely has rules and rewards those that play by the rules.
And also, like, sometimes it'll punish you for being yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely get punished, not only by maybe, like, in school-age kids, you know, being a social outcast
for sure,
and frowned upon and stuff like that. But then as you grow older, you're punished by, you know, bad credit scores and not being able to buy houses and, you know, going hungry.
The normal survival things. I guess that's why the struggling artist is an adage.
Yeah.
Because it's a struggle. Even if you are a successful artist, I would venture to say that it's always a struggle because you have chosen to swim against the current all the time.
It is, and I think that everybody, artists or not, looks for little ways to be themselves and go against the current, you know, and kind of push back. Everybody has their little artistic endeavors and side projects and, you know, things that they do to bring themselves some self-gratification. And I say everybody, but I mean, you know, the majority. And I think
I would hope that everybody does at some point.
People that don't, though, I mean, certainly people don't, and I think they are the ones that constantly, you know, maybe constantly struggle. And I feel bad for people that don't have, like, a little bit of a side passion in their daily life, you know, and it could be anything. It could be small. It could be anything from, like, collecting comic books to, it could even be, like, listening to music or viewing art, you know, stuff that brings, like, an expression of the heart for that person.
Along those lines, I will say that I've recently discovered that there are, like, different facets of hobbies. So I enjoy very much reading, and somebody very close to me in my life enjoys collecting books, not necessarily reading them. So I get to read a lot of these books and report back kind of in a book report form, but the collection of the books is itself the hobby. Supporting that art form is its own hobby. You don't exactly have to read it. It's a curation,
and you can see it through music too, because, like, you had certain bands that allowed, like, taping in the 70s and 60s.
Like the Dead.
Like the Dead and the Allman Brothers, and it was like,
That's its own art form.
They had its own art. They were involved, and those people would curate shows.
Yeah.
You know, they would literally curate shows, and now it's like videotaping shows or whatever, you know, and there's all these different facets of it. And that's why I think it's a hard debate when people say, you know, oh, put your phones away and enjoy the experience, because, like, we've
even talked about
talked about that in the past, probably on this show, but, like, my opinion varies from time to time. You know, yes, you know, certain people, like, they need to be true to themselves. There might be people that, like, they have that curator's heart and they want to save it for later.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, they're the people that probably have the hundreds of photo albums, you know, at Thanksgiving come out from under the table and they look at every picture. You know, it's like, I'm the type of person that's a lot of times I'll take pictures in afterthought, and then the only way I look at the pictures, like, I have thousands of pictures on my phone probably, and when I go to look at them, it's just because I went down a rabbit hole. It's not because I, like, sit and from a curator's heart want to go, oh, I remember this time and relive all the moments, you know. I can relive the moments without the pictures, I think.
Well, we've often said, too, like, along the same lines of the books, in music, that, I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people at our shows that are like, wow, such great talent, all this, I wish I had that. The only thing I play is the radio. And
there's nothing wrong with that.
I would just want to take those people's cheeks in my hands and say, you are important to what we do. Because without someone to appreciate the music that we're making, other than pleasing ourselves, where does it go?
And I would stress how important it is. I have a different view on things lately, and I think that it's not. A lot of people say, oh, music's not what it used to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the more and more I think about it is, no, music is what it used to be, but the listener's not what they used to be. And the onus is really nowadays on the listener because the music's out there. There's lots of really good bands.
Yeah.
We play with them all the time.
Yeah, we see them out
we
there.
We perform with them. We see them
working.
Out there.
Yeah.
So the onus is really on the listener. And the problem has become is that nobody goes to see live music anymore or treats it with the respect.
Fewer people. Not nobody.
Right, not nobody.
Fewer people.
The respect that music used to be given in the 60s and 70s has now been, more focused on Hollywood, more focused on video games, more focused on, Facebook.
Well, there's so many facets of entertainment now.
Right,
to be
and
had.
like the interaction between artist and fan has diminished so much that it's affected the music, and it's it's given the musician less places to play, and I read concert reviews about how horrible the crowds are, and a lot of that I think is because is like no longer can the true fans always get in, so it is kind of a two-way street. When you're talking about $100-$200 tickets, that's tough, but at the same time, a lot of these bands are on the way out that are charging these $200 tickets. They don't have much time left, and there's a lot of bands out there playing for $10 or $15, $20 that could be supported and are not being supported.
Well, I will say, though, that it's almost like a condensation, like a reduction, to speak in cooking terms, where the fans that we are seeing that enjoy live music are super fans of live music, and they will bleed for their venues. They are there. It doesn't matter what bands are playing. They are there to support live music, and they're just ecstatic when you can do it well.
Yes. And they have things to say that are important, you know? And it's like, they're definitely, and they're supportive, and they
That's
love
an
music,
art form is what I'm getting at.
It is
Being an
form.
Audience member truly has become its own art form.
And I mean, a lot of people do, I think nowadays for the wrong reasons, the status symbol, oh, I saw the Stones, or I saw them, and it's like
hopefully though, even if they're there for
they're
that,
going to be affected
they've
by the
been
music.
Transformed by the
and
music.
Hopefully they will be, But a lot of that I think is what we're seeing when we see these write-ups about how bad the crowds were. I've read a lot of reports lately about how the crowds were unresponsive or lackluster, or the turnout wasn't there, or and every artist nowadays, whether they say it publicly or not, they've canceled the show because of poor ticket sales. I don't care who you are, except for maybe Taylor Swift. Yeah,
she's got a corner on the market, and deservedly.
And there's an article out there that that I've been wanting to read, and it's called "Why Taylor Swift is Dominating the or live music venues" or something along those natures, and why that's a bad thing. And they say basically it's not because she's a bad artist, but it's because there's no competition. Her fans are really good and hardcore, and they've stuck with her all this time. But the only reason she can dominate it easily because people aren't going out to see other bands, and there's nobody out there, And a lot of it has to do with there was never a transition period. At one point, I think we had the music of the '60s and '70s and '80s, and those bands stayed big. And
some of them are still big.
They kept propping them up, and they kept touring, kept propping them up. And it's like, even though you can hear people complain about diminishing returns and high ticket prices, nobody else was given a chance, by the industry, because the industry was suffering and too busy fighting 99-cent downloads and Napster and suing people and Metallica joining in on it and all this stuff about nitpicking and attacking fans, and somehow or another they took their eye off the prize. They thought, well, if we just milk these cash cows a little bit longer and we don't develop any music, I think
industry got in the way of art.
It did.
So it's there is a side of the music business that is just the business part. And that part is, to me, as a lyricist, as a musical person, as an artist, is soul wrenching to me. I would long for the days that there was such a thing as true artist development, where they would take somebody and push them more toward their own artistic ability instead of trying to mold them into this formulaic pattern of what they think will make them money.
Yeah. Well, in the early days, rock and roll was, when it was a brand new thing, it was almost better because you had your A&R people, right, that were scouting for new bands. And it was if they could play music, you know, these guys had a ton of money. They didn't like rock and roll. It was foreign to them, and they were just chomping on cigars. Yeah. And they were going, I don't know, like, find what the kids are listening to and sign them, you know? Yeah. And they would sign all these bands that maybe, like, would not have got signed otherwise. They were, you know, they're making all these wild sounds and different things, and, you know, everybody's getting signed. But then as the industry developed, all of a sudden, the cigar chomping people were actually like fans, or, you know, or they were like, oh, there's money to be made here. Yeah. And then they became the trendsetters.
Well, they started the formula.
Right. They started the formula like, oh, this made us money in the past. Sign more bands like this. Or, you know, the other side of that is like, look, these guys want too much money for what they do, so find a band that sounds like them and we'll make them into them, you know. Yeah. And I mean, it even started early on. You know, there's stories about like different bands that came into be because, you know, they couldn't get the real band, or they wanted a band that sounded like.
You also hear the horror stories of record labels being signed for X amount of albums, and that artist is pumping out these albums and really excited about their new material, and then they just get shelved, and they don't go anywhere. They just spin their wheels because of this record label deal that they thought would be giving them their dreams. So, I mean, there's a lot of industry crud attached to the music business, and I love the artistry of music, and it's kind of like what I would love to do is take that bit out, kind of like taking insurance away and just having the patient and the doctor. Just that really communal thing. And I guess that's really
the beautiful thing now.
Music and the listener. That's really like just remove the business side of it. You know, I know we all need money to survive, but getting art to the enjoyer of art, I feel like, is the definition of making it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's some of the inroads that have been made with the invention of the internet, you know. Mm-hmm. The upside is that you can get to the listener directly and they'll support you. You know, the downside is that the listener has to maybe surf through 1,000 bands they don't like to find the one that they do. So it can be overwhelming and daunting. Yeah. You know. Yeah. But I think it makes it that much more important that I think that the listeners need to understand that how important it is that once they find a band and they, you know, we see people in our stream every day. Oh, I thank the algorithm that brought me here. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe you guys sound like this. And like, you know, the comments on our videos are very supportive. But like understanding that, they need to remember how hard it was for them to find us, or what a chance it was, or on a whim. Yeah. And they need to share it with all their friends. Yeah. And they need to share it with all their friends. Also, and do all they can to support by sharing the videos, going to the concerts, you know, buying the tickets, you know, telling their friend in the city we're going to buy the tickets, et cetera, et cetera.
Which we appreciate everybody who's done that. Also, absolutely. If you've discovered another band that you think we should be listening to, leave a comment. Let us know. We will go listen, because we're always on the hunt for some fans. New good music.
We're music fans.
It's another hobby of ours, listening to music. Yes. We're artists in that way too. Yes. So, yeah, let us know who we should be listening to. We'll happily go listen.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you guys for being here.